Hey everybody, Vermont Prepper here, and I hear a lot of preppers on YouTube talk about the power outage in Northern California that's just about to happen or started happening already. So I figured let me jump on the bandwagon and talk about it, give you my point of view on this. No, it is not a conspiracy. I see some people saying that this is a planned government outage to see how people are going to react. No, that's not true. Uh, there's liability for pg&e, and now whether they're handling it right or not is not for me to decide. But as you all know, a couple years ago, 2017, you had wildfires that pg&e was liable for. And here's a picture of 2017. You had down power lines that come into contact with trees, and the dry conditions and windy conditions stoke fires. So they believe that this is how the big fire started in California, and pg&e was held liable billions of dollars, caused them to go bankrupt, etc. So they're trying to come out of bankruptcy, and they don't want the liability for causing another fire and having to possibly even go out of business. So it could be a way that pg&e is saying kind of like an FU to California, saying, hey, we don't want to be liable again. You guys gave us this liability. We don't want to be liable again, so we're gonna shut down power. There might be a little bit of that going on within the top echelons of pg&e. Hopefully there's no emails that are going around about that within the company, but quite possible. But it's not because it's a government planned shutdown. The government did not plan this. It's pg&e that planned this because they don't want liability. It's that simple. So let's talk about what happens here. I mean, supposedly it's going to be over within 5 to 7 business days, and some people may say that's a lot. Some people may say that's not a lot, okay? And I think it's probably getting, for most, it's probably going to be more of an annoyance, and possibly a little more than annoyance for others, because you think about some of the things that they have to worry about. There's probably food that's going to go bad, so you want to cook all the food in your freezer. You don't want that to just stay in the freezer. That's what actually my mom did right after Hurricane Andrew, where we had power outage for over 6 months at my house. And this is in Miami, Florida, right in the suburbs of Miami, Florida. So it can happen anywhere. You cook the food in the freezer right after, and we had all the neighbors over, and we ate it all. And the food's going to go bad anyway, so why not put it to good use and create some goodwill among people? And here's the other thing is, like, I really feel that 99% of the SHTF quote unquote scenarios that are going to happen are not going to be long term. It's going to be something like this, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe there's even sometimes a month, or from some kind of natural disaster. But if you're one of those people that are like, that don't help others if you can, that's your prerogative. My philosophy is that I feel that I should help others. I have the ability to provide power I live in an apartment complex right here, only like a 6-room apartment complex. And if power went out, I have more than enough power from a big solar battery that, it's not going to power everybody's whole apartment, but it'll certainly give them lights. It'll give them a way to charge their cell phone, etc. And just, very basic needs. So I think from my view, I'm more likely to help people than not. If the situation was a little more dire, where it's going to be long term, maybe I'll have to reassess that. I don't know. But for me, I think if you go a long way to help somebody, to help people that need the help, it's going to create goodwill, and those people are going to view you as stepping up during a time of not a total crisis, but during a time of need where you are able to be a leader. Okay, so that's my philosophy. So let's get back to this California thing. So people are worried about their food. They're worried about, simple basic things. We're so reliant on the power grid, charging their cell phones. What about the electric cars, right? Tesla came out saying, hey, you better charge your electric cars. It's one of those things where you and I and those who don't have electric cars, we don't think about that stuff. I have diesel engine vehicles. I'd need diesel fuel. I don't charge my cars. Maybe eventually I will get an electric car, but I don't have one right now. So charging your electric cars, Tesla is not going to have their charging stations working in Northern California. The other thing is that, I just want to show a picture right here just to sort of reiterate why PG&E is doing this, not only for liability, but there is a real threat right here of the telephone poles or whatever, or not telephone poles, power poles that get blown over by the winds. And I think there's going to be up to like 60 mile or maybe even higher winds. They call them the Santa Ana winds, I guess. And they blow over these power poles, and they come into contact with the trees. And that's why PG&E was deemed responsible for it. And this is 2017 here. The other thing I want to talk about is Silicon Valley. People are saying, oh, well, Silicon Valley's not going to be affected. There's a conspiracy there too. Oh, the Silicon Valley people, they're paying their way. They're going to have power. Well, that's not true. All right. So Apple, Google, and other Silicon Valley companies are going to see power cuts starting noon today. All right. And today's Wednesday. So again, PG&E is operating under Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This is the third shutdown. In the last 2 months, they were able to restore power a little bit quicker. But by and large, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people in Northern California. I think that it may push more people to be more self-reliant. It may push more people to appreciate the power grid. But if you look at, California, which kind of prides itself on, technology, etc., we're seeing a very aged power grid that is not so technologically advanced. It's aging. It's old infrastructure. Very, very poorly designed for today's usage. Maybe back in the 50s it was okay, but for today it's not. We rely on the power grid for everything. They have rolling blackouts over there. I'm surprised the same thing isn't happening in New York City in the summer with rolling blackouts. Sometimes they do, but not very much. But California seems to be pervasive there. There's always something going on, and I think part of it has to do with poor forest management. That's part of it. The other part is just a lack of funds to perform the necessary forest management. They do that in Vermont here. They manage the forest pretty well. So I don't really understand why it happens to this extent right now. Like, I guess maybe because of the liability thing with pg&e, but and I don't know if this is going to be a yearly thing or if this is just a one-time thing. I guess whenever the winds are picking up on a yearly basis, I guess they have a very pronounced dry season with high winds. This is going to happen until the power grid gets upgraded. Things are buried underground, which is going to take years and years and years. But if it was me, and I lived in California, which you probably have a better chance of seeing God than that happening, I would be moving towards solar power and become totally self-reliant, and not have to worry about being hooked up to the power grid. It's just that simple. It really is. Californians are getting taxed to death. They're getting screwed by the power companies. They're getting screwed by the government. Their rights are being taken away. And there's a lot of good people out there. I love visiting. It was over in San Diego, and I thought that was a great city, great people there. But they're slowly getting screwed to the point where people are starting to leave, and they're only shooting themselves in the foot. So I think that this is all a byproduct of the way it's governed. Okay, we blame the power company. Power company says, oh, okay, you're going to blame us? Well, we're going to shut down power because we don't want to be blamed again. So they're at a stalemate. This is the way the government runs there. In any event, hope you all liked the video. I just sort of went on a rant there and, just gave you my views. I'd like to hear your views as well. How you feel the power, if you're in California particularly, how you're faring during this outage, as well as if you disagree with my view. And if you disagree in a respectful way, I'll respectfully reply. If it's disrespectful, I'll do the same. So in any event, Vermont Prepper out, and as always, keep prepping.